Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about my June reads. I realized that I'm about to pick my August TBR and I haven't spoken about my June books. So we need to remedy that. In June, I have my stats here. I read 9 books, 1 audiobook, and 8 immersion reads. I DNF'd a book. I read 3 from my 2026 TBR, which is really great. And I gave 2 books 5 stars. I don't remember which book I DNF'd. The first book that I read in June is Silver in the Bone by Alexandra Bracken. This is an urban fantasy YA King Arthur retelling. It sounds great, right? And this cover is really cool. And it wasn't bad. This is about Tamsin, who does not have magic, but she looks for magic relics. And she works for this, I don't know if company's the right word, a group of people that all do this. And there's this news that a relic of King Arthur's, a ring, has been spotted, or there's rumors that it exists. And she wants to find that ring because it could potentially cure her brother he has a curse on him. The brother's curse I thought was the most interesting thing about the book. I wanted more of the brother. I really enjoyed that about this book. But in order to get this ring or to try to find it, she has to team up with this guy who is the son of the group, the company's leader. And of course, he has this reputation of being this awful guy, and he's not really. And so they team up, they go on an adventure to look for this ring. And in doing that, they're also looking for answers about their father, who left them when they were children, and it's all kind of tied in together. Like I said, it was not a bad book. I enjoyed my time in this book, but I did not feel like I was dying to pick up book 2. I didn't feel very connected to Tamsin. I feel like her character needed more depth. It just did not make a huge impression on me. So I thought it was fine. I like that the YA aspect, the closed door, there was not a lot of romance in this, and the end actually was good. It was just fine, but I didn't hate it. I gave it 3 stars. But that was the first book that I read, and I think this is a duology. I think there's only 2 books in the series, which is also cool. I feel very similar about the second book that I read. I read Foxglove by Adalyn Grace. This is the second book in the Belladonna series. This is the UK edition that I got on one of our trips. So even though this was not my favorite book, I am going to keep this because it's important to me, when I purchased this. The Belladonna series are YA mystery fantasies set in Victorian times, I think. In book 1 and book 2, there has been a murder, and Signa, who is our protagonist, is trying to solve the murder, and she herself has paranormal powers. She can see ghosts, and because of something that happened to her when she was a baby, she can speak to death. And in this book, we're also introduced to another character, Fate, who I like more. I like Fate's character way more than Death's, and I thought this was fun. It is a fun book, but I feel the same about this one. I'm not dying to pick up book 3. It took me forever to read this book. This has been on a few TBRs because I honestly, book 1 was also just kind of fun, but not I love this series, and just not my favorite. But they are fun. I love this cover. I think the UK covers for this series are just so beautiful. So that was the second book that I read, and I also gave this 3 stars. The next book that I read was The Listeners by Maggie. I can't say her last name. This was very interesting. It was a very interesting book because it is historical fiction with fantasy tied in. In this book, there is a hotel, a very prestigious hotel that has special water. People go to this hotel to go to the bathing rooms to have the water. And you drink the water, and the water has special magical powers. And this is during World War II, and it's in the States. I don't remember which, Virginia? I think it's taking place in Virginia. And during this time, diplomats from Japan, from Germany, from all around the world are in the US, and they need somewhere to stay. So the government is kind of taking over these hotels and making them places where the diplomats stay and that they can be safe and kind of away from the media. And at this hotel, the leader of the hotel, what are they called? The manager does not want the water to be touched. We don't fully understand the water. It's kind of confusing because you have to also please the water. You don't want to disturb the water. It can also I don't know. I did not fully understand it, but she doesn't want anyone to use the water, that specific water, while they're in the hotel. Now, this is historical fiction. This actually did happen in the sense that these diplomats, I never thought about all these diplomats from these countries coming to the US to try to, figure out what to do during this time. And these hotels in this state really were used for the diplomats. And it was very interesting to learn about the rules that the diplomats had to follow, what media they were able to consume, the books that they were able to read. They had a lot of rules, and they also had to be watched and searched. That all was very interesting because I've never thought of that before, during this time period. And what the town folk thought of having these diplomats in their town. And in this book, we're following a little girl, a German, who has a disability. We are not really sure exactly what it is, but she doesn't speak and she can throw tantrums. I did not look up what it's supposed to be. I don't think that's the point. But during this time, kids that had this disability in Germany would maybe be killed. They're trying to kind of get rid of this affliction in children, so it would be dangerous for her to go back to Germany. And the owner of the hotel kind of feels for this little girl and wants to help her because she had similar symptoms when she was little. There's a lot going on, and I really love the historical part of it. What I did not like was the fantasy elements in this book. I don't know why I'm losing my voice. The water was confusing. I did not like the water. I just kind of wish that there were no fantasy elements and that it was only a historical fiction, because that was interesting. I ended up giving this 3 stars. It was interesting, just didn't like the fantasy elements. I thought it had enough with the historical elements that we didn't need to throw in the fantasy. I then read The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is a book that I was very curious to know my opinion, where I would land with this book, because I feel this is a lot of people's favorite, or maybe not favorite, but really beloved classic. And then I feel a lot of people are also just kind of it's overrated. I had no idea what this was about. In this book, we're following Esther, who lives in New York during the 50s. She has this really awesome job. She loves living in the city, the partying. So even though she's very successful, she's living in New York where she wants to live, her mental health starts to deteriorate, and then it just goes downhill from there. And I did not know that this was a very depressing book. I really enjoyed this book a lot, and I feel like I'm really glad I didn't know anything about this book. I thought it was very interesting. Some of the medical procedures that are done during this time, that I felt so bad for her and for the people that these things were done to. And I loved the ending. The ending was very what's still going to happen. It was kind of an open-ended ending, and I really liked that. I don't think that that's a spoiler, but I also love this edition. This is the Faber and Faber edition. This is so pretty. I'm so glad I finally read this, that I got to experience this book for the first time. I could definitely see a reread of this. I gave this 5 stars. It's very short. I also read that this is kind of an autobiography of Sylvia Plath. It's fiction, but kind of not. I don't know anything about Sylvia Plath. And I would be curious to see what else she's written. I know that reading her journal or her notebook, or there's a book that Rory Gilmore read. That was the next book that I read. Like I said, I gave it 5 stars. A cherished classic. Modern classic? Yeah, modern classic. The next book, I now have 3 editions of, and that is The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. This is the first book in the Wheel of Time series. I got this edition so long ago. Barnes & Noble was like getting rid of these mass markets, and I got 2 of them for like $3. And I also have a like normal paperback size, and then I recently got the mass market that has the original artwork. I love it. This is very exciting because this is a book I have avoided, and I think I'm just done avoiding books that I think I'm going to love or that are really long and intimidating, because this is a very intimidating series and I'm so glad that I'm like in it now. In this book, it starts off at a quiet village called Emmons Field. There are a group of young adults there, and nothing much happens there until this woman with this like knight kind of looking man comes to this village and says that these group of boys, they need to flee because this evil one is looking for them and she's not gonna let him have them. And as they're like, okay, maybe we should go with her because things kind of happen, a girl from that village is like, you're taking me with you? I'm leaving this place and I want to have an adventure. So this is very much like traveling adventure kind of book. They like get separated, you kind of break up into groups and they're all trying to find each other. We're experiencing like having an adventure for the first time from different personalities. You know, you have the girl that's like, this is great. I'm so glad to be away from home. You have some of the boys that are like, this, you know, as soon as this is over, I'm going straight home. I like seeing them as they're like young adults. They haven't experienced the world yet. So sometimes they will like experience something and be like, wow, like this is the world. Or they're also kind of like growing into themselves, maybe as like a leader. One of the characters that I really, really like at one point is like, oh, I think I'm actually the leader in this situation. I guess I need to lead. And I really liked that, seeing them like grow. And I bet there's still so much more growing for these characters because they're very young. This is epic high fantasy with very cool world building, a very cool magic system, prophecies. This was so much fun. And I need a map of this book, honestly. I just recently looked up a map for another book and kind of thought like, you know, this book, before I read book 2, I need to refresh myself on this book because there's a large cast of characters, different magic abilities, and I need to refresh my memory on it. And I know that this is an older series and maybe everyone has already read it, but I highly recommend. And I'm just like talking about it makes me so excited to pick up book 2. And book 2 will not be in this edition because I don't have book 2 in this edition. And honestly, this is not my favorite edition. This was very fun to, like, very easy to hold though. I love smaller books because it makes it so easy to carry around my house, to throw in my purse, and to just read it was so much easier than like a huge book or like a hardcover. So loved this. I do love the mass market edition more, and I will read book 2 in that edition, but I'm so excited to continue this series. I have not seen the show and I have no intention of seeing the show. I'm just going to keep reading the books. The next book that I read, and I gave it 5 stars. The next book that I read was Severance by Ling Ma. I hope I'm saying that right. I've wanted to read this for a long time because I know this is like I knew this was a cool take on like zombies, which was very cool. The like zombies and what the zombies like represent, I really enjoyed. I wanted more of that. I wanted more zombies. What this book is really about is consumerism, living your life on autopilot, loneliness, immigration, the meaning of work and routine, what people cling to when like society kind of falls apart. There's been a fungal epidemic that has spread around the whole world, and so people are like turning into these zombies. And we're following our main character, Candace, who migrated from, I think China, I'm almost positive it's China, to New York City, and she is not infected by this sickness. And she's with a group of people and they're trying to navigate the world with these people that have been infected and also trying to like get rid of these infected. That was super interesting, like how you get infected and like what happens to you after. I loved that. I think I just wanted more of that. And so I would recommend this I also like I love when, books discuss consumerism and like just like maybe not really living, not really being alive. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was good. So glad I finally read it. My next book was the worst book I've read all year and probably should have just DNF'd it. That is Fear the Flames by Olivia, darling. I had such high hopes for this. When I bought this, they still had the indie editions. This has been picked up. I thought this was going to be the next Fourth Wing, but like better, and it is not. I thought this was so bad. Now, I know I am not a romantasy person very much anymore. There are a few romantasy series that I still want to continue, but I'm not a huge romantasy person, at least right now. It's not my time to like love romantasy, but I know that is a big part of why I didn't like this book. But I still think that the story in Fourth Wing is better. And that there are way more dragons in Fourth Wing, like earlier on in the book. We're following this queen who's in hiding from her father. She owns 5 dragons that are like, they're bonded to her. And her father wants these dragons to not be bonded to her. I don't even remember why. So because of that, she flees, he has them imprisoned, and she wants her dragon. So she's trying to get them back. She ends up working with this guy who is, I don't know what his name is in this book, but he's, like the bad guy that is also helping her, and they like really like each other. It was too spicy. There were not enough dragons, and I just thought like gross. I don't like all the names, the pet names that he called her. I didn't think the story was very interesting. I think that this is not a good book. And I think there should have been way more dragons. I feel like everyone loved this when it came out. I mean, that's why I bought it. And I mean, maybe this is everyone else's cup of tea, but it is not mine. I'm very much going to forget about this book. I'm going to sell this because maybe someone else would love having the indie edition of this book that maybe they love. If you love this book, I'm so happy for you. I gave it 1 star. This next book, so much better than that one. This is Guns of the Dawn. This is a fantasy war book, and it is a standalone, which I love. In this land, there's been this ongoing war forever. People trying to invade their land. It's just been like a back and forth in this war for forever. There's been like drafts in the past where like all the men had to go to war, and then it was like, we're good, and then now it's like bad again. There's been another draft, and our protagonist, Emily Marshwick, that we really like, her brother, who's like the last man in their family, like they really need him, and her brother-in-law have both been drafted. She can't do anything about it. So like the men are all kind of gone from their like town, from their home, and it makes it harder on the women because now they have to do the work of also the men. In this story, there are warlocks, which is very cool, and like I wanted more of these warlocks. They are not the main part of this book. So I found that a little bit disappointing because they like work with fire, and there are like not very many of them. The king's warlocks there aren't very many. And the other land wants to obviously kill them off because they're very powerful. Now, in the book, there's been another draft, and now a woman from each household has to go to war, and it is Emily Marshwick. She is the one that goes to war, and we're following her as she becomes a soldier. She becomes, I guess I don't want to say too much, but we're following her during this war, and it's so interesting. I really enjoyed following this story. We like her a lot, and this is also kind of like her, she was this wealthy, very sheltered woman in her hometown, and now she's a soldier, and we're following her kind of like growing up as well. The end was awesome. This was a really good book. It is long, but it's one story like this. I love that this is just, it's a standalone, which I feel like I've been finding good standalones, and I'm gonna read a new standalone in August, and I'm very excited about it. It's a very exciting thing happening. This says, now with barely enough training to hold a musket, Emily must brave the savage reality of warfare, yet she begins to doubt her country's cause, and those doubts become critical, for her choices will determine not just her own future, but that of two nations locked in battle. I recommend this. I gave it 4 stars. Honestly, this feels more like a 4.5, which maybe I gave it a 4.5, but this was very good. And if you like books about like war with some magic and a good female protagonist, I recommend this. The last book that I've read, I wanted to read for a long time, that is The Ministry of Time by Kaliane. I realized I didn't say the name of this one. There you go. In this book, this is set in the future. The British government has this very top secret mission to bring back people from the past, bring them to the future, and kind of see what happens to them. They want to know if time travel is feasible. So they kind of brought back people that did not have this like humongous impact in history. It wouldn't like really matter if they did not survive. We're following an unnamed civil servant who is going to be the like guardian. I don't know what to call her. She's going to help the expat that they took from the past, Commander Graham Gore, who is a naval officer on a ship that actually like really did exist, who was doomed in an Arctic expedition. Oh, I don't remember what the ship was called, but that like expedition actually did happen. So they bring him to the present, and we like him so much because he's such a gentleman, because he's from the past. And he's going to live with her, and she's going to like teach him about our current time. And it's so interesting because he kind of just sees like there's so many things wrong with the future. It is a romance between them, and then there are also things going on that she kind of discovers that are maybe not super great with this kind of experiment that's happening. There are other expats from different time periods that have also been brought to the future, so we're also learning about them a little bit. I thought it was very interesting. I did like that maybe this government project is not great. I think I could have just done without the romance, but that's the case with every book. I kind of wish that they had just remained friends. Well, okay, maybe not though. Okay, I wish there were less spice. There is some scenes that are not closed door. Okay, if they had been closed door, I would have been totally fine with that. Maybe just a little bit less romance. Yeah. I liked it though. I thought it was good. I thought it was very interesting. I love books with time travel, and like I like the concept of like taking someone from the past and like seeing the future and being like, what is this? Like, what is going on here? Why are you dressed this way? You're a woman. I thought that was really interesting. And we like him a lot. I gave it 4 stars. I liked it. The book that I DNF'd, I totally forgot about this book. I already got rid of it. I DNF'd Half-Blood by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This was like paranormal, if I'm remembering correctly, kind of like high school book. I think this is a YA by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and I didn't like it. I barely got into I did not get very far, and I DNF'd it. I did not want to read this story. There is a book by her that I cherish, but her books are so hit and miss for me. And this was definitely a miss. So I did DNF that. So my biggest disappointment was definitely Fear the Flames, because I was very excited about this book, especially when I first purchased it. They don't want to stay up. My worst book was also Fear the Flames. They're never the same in these wrap-ups, but they were this month. My biggest surprise was The Bell Jar, because I just really did not know if I was going to love, or maybe not hate, but I just thought I may not be interested in it. And I was very pleasantly surprised by that book. And as the book progressed, I just did not want to put it down. But my favorite book was Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. This was such a good time. I'm very excited to continue. And this also makes me want to read more Brandon Sanderson. This makes me want to read more epic high fantasy that I know was written just by a super good author. So that is my reading month of June. I hope you enjoyed. If you could please give me a like, a comment, let me know what your favorite book or maybe your worst book of June is. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.